All right, good evening, everybody out there. Good afternoon. This is ReadySetCrypto here with Doc and Mav for today, Wednesday, the 20th of October. Welcome aboard as Bitcoin hits all-time highs. Hallelujah. There we go. Welcome aboard, folks. Let us know where you're coming in from. If you could do us a favor, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button so we can beat the algorithm and let everybody else know that we have started. We'll be here for about the next half hour talking about crypto, answering your questions, looking at crypto pairs, all that stuff. Let us know where you're coming in from. We got a bunch of folks here coming in. Let's see. We got Darwin coming in, San Antonio. We have Ireland. We have woohoo. We have Florida coming in, Netherlands. We have Sacramento, California. We have folks coming in from the Ozarks. Welcome aboard. We will get started here shortly.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, we've already got a very lively chat, so we're going to dive into this one pretty quickly here. But yeah, good to see everybody. Looks like our predictions came true, so glad to see that. Both in terms of, hey, we were going to see, the Bitcoin futures ETF approved, and that was probably going to lead to a new all-time high. So as it stands right now, we are looking at, let me see, the current all-time high as measured by CoinGecko is $67,276. Yeah. All right, there we go. So about 3,000 or so above the previous all-time high, which is, a nice high water mark, but I think we can do a little bit better than that. So hopefully we see some nice, resurgence to the upside going into the weekend. But anyways, Doc, I saw a little bit of your thunder here. Let's talk about some of these people who are chatting in right now. Where are you guys coming in from?
Yeah, let's see who else we have here. We got Sydney coming in. We have Rajith is checking in from the moon. All right. And there's a number of questions. So usually how we do this is we have Mav talking about kind of the more, fundamental end of things. And then I'll kind of grab the baton in a few minutes here and we'll talk about charts. If there's any specific pairs that you want to see, the early bird gets the worm. So let me know if there's any coins you want me to do a little bit of TA on. And, we'll do that. We'll finish up around the bottom half of the hour today, get you in, get your fair share, get you out of here, and off you go. So Mav, you got anything else to bring up today, or any, you mentioned, hedging and things like that. What exactly were you meaning by that?
Yeah. So we're in a obviously very auspicious occasion here with a new all-time high. And if we look back, particularly to where we saw previous all-time highs hit, or sort of like similar circumstances where we saw just a massive surge in Bitcoin, and then what happened next. So if we look at like December of 2020, we look at December of 2017, basically Bitcoin led the charge. It was all about Bitcoin for a couple of weeks or so. And then, hit a new all-time high. Everything was groovy. And then we saw it start to kind of percolate down to all the different projects, the altcoins out there. And basically the formula for that is like Bitcoin leads the charge. Then the money kind of moves into the platforms, the Ethereums, the Solanas, the Cardanos, the Avalanche, the Polygons, I guess, these sorts of projects that are platforms that, smaller projects are building off of. They're sort of the next layer of how the money gets, how the gains are distributed. And then at that point, it goes down into the actual projects themselves, the altcoins, if you want to call them, the tokens. So that's when we have a true altcoin season, if you will. So is that going to happen? We don't know just yet, but it looks pretty favorable. It looks like just look at the charts today. It's green across the board. It's a very positive, greedy market. And I think this is exactly what we were hoping to see about a month ago when we were saying, hey, September kind of sucks, but usually October is when things start to get a little bit more spicy. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for a Bitcoin charge that then moves into the platforms, that then moves into the projects. So if we're looking to hedge against Bitcoin right now, obviously Bitcoin is doing awesome right now. Hopefully it continues to do awesome. We want to see it break through 70, maybe even entertain 80. Who knows? Like if it can get all the way to 100 this time, that'd be pretty incredible. But regardless of where it sets that new high water mark, what we want to be doing is thinking a couple steps ahead and saying, okay, at some point, Bitcoin is going to run out of steam. And then hopefully what we'll see is that the altcoins sort of take over the momentum, right? We don't see just a fall backwards into a bear market kind of environment. This is sort of what we've been seeing ever since Bitcoin hit the last all-time high in April. That 5 months of just kind of like, our DeFi, the next big thing is NFTs, the next big thing. We're kind of trying to like pick up the steam, but without Bitcoin leading the charge, it's kind of hard to do that. So now that we've got that, now that we have, Bitcoin futures ETF, now we have institutions starting to move in. Now that we've, gotten China out of the scene, there's a lot of positive factors going into, why crypto's hot right now, why Bitcoin is printing new all-time highs, and why maybe the altcoins can pick up the steam from here and start to lead the charge. So if I were to start to look to, hedge against Bitcoin just in the interim, we're talking maybe like a month out from now, just the portfolio I'd be building out of that. I'd be looking at projects that are doing things definitely contrarian to like Ethereum in particular. So I'd be looking at like Cardano. I'd be looking at Polkadot. I'd be looking at Matic. I'd be looking at Solana. I'd be looking at Avalanche too, even though they're kind of still kind of proving themselves, but I think they're doing some really great things. And right now, one of the ones that's bringing up the charts is Phantom. All of these, I think, are germane to that sort of mid-term, just hedging portfolio. Once those sorts of projects start to take over, once we start to see the market, rally behind that, at that point, that's when we get back into the hot, cheap altcoin season, where we can be looking for those sort of like moonshots, the sort of like the projects that are outside the top 100 by market cap, picking up those guys. But right now, I want to be transitioning into sort of that midterm sort of portfolio. So that's how I'd be hedging right now. But obviously, that's just one perspective. We still don't know how the rest of the year is going to play out. We still don't know how 2022 is going to play out. But I think things are looking good. So if that's the case, I want to be building a portfolio of quality, like the projects I just mentioned. Another one I forgot to mention was Harmony, or under the ticker 1. I think that's another one that's got some really good deadlines or releases coming up. So I think these are all great projects you should be looking at, and definitely a quality portfolio there without having to think too hard about it. So, anyways. As Doc mentioned, we're going to dig into some of the pairs and start to look at this from a more charting perspective. But I think the first one we should look at is, what is Bitcoin doing right now? What do you think is going to happen from this point forward? Obviously today is a new all-time high, but can we continue to print new all-time highs? Or is this just going to be like the one and done? Just a very exciting day. And then we'll go back into, waiting for the next all-time high for another 5 months or whatever. So what do you think, Doc?
Well, funny you should mention that. All right, let's go over to the charts here. And I've got a monthly log chart of Bitcoin. This is my North Star. This is what keeps me on the right side of the trend and keeps me from panicking when we see, pullbacks like what we saw this spring. And day after day after day after day, I was looking at this chart going, hey, look, this is just a pullback, guys. This is not a big trend. This is not something where you want to dump. This is where you want to accumulate. Now, we did have the possibility that we were going to drop very quickly down to maybe 17,000 to 20. We never did that. So the trend is intact on the monthly chart. All right, we get down to the weekly chart. What do we got here? We have higher highs and higher lows. Now, the problem here that we're going to run into fairly soon is on the RSI Laguerre, we're going to be down into exhaustion soon. So there's only so much that we're going to get. However, what I like about this, and let's just go out to the price on this. This is a really nice pattern that we have. This is really a beautiful, let's see, I got to get my drawing tools out here. Apologize, guys. Let's get these going. And what we have here is kind of this a big basing cup pattern that is showing up. All right, so this is where we're kind of, here's the base of it. And I don't know that we're going to necessarily get a handle. So this is cup with handle. But what I found in crypto is we rarely get the consolidation handle. When this thing takes off, everybody piles on. So what you want to do is you want to look for the distance here. So I'll just call this the delta P in price. And what we're looking at is this distance down here, which is about 36. It's about 36,000. And the extension from this is we're going to go extend out 36,000 from here. Guess what? It's 64. What do those two add up to? 100,000. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get there. More than likely, it's going to eat up most of the monthly trend to get there. Probably will take a couple of months at the very least to get there. I wouldn't anticipate seeing this by the end of the year, but we have a measured move target of 100,000. So for the first time, this is where I can actually throw a number at something. You know, all around crypto is guys that are throwing numbers that say, whoa, 250,000 or a million or whatever. And there's no basis behind that. This is an actual chart pattern based on probabilities that show we have a measured move underway to 100,000, which is good. I like that. But that's about, where we can take that from. Now, there's a question today that came in about, like, where do you take profits up there? This is where I would get into fib extensions, and I'm not really prepared to show you fib extensions today. It would take too long. Unfortunately, we could do, if you're in the Omnia group, we could do like a trade school on fib extensions, or I may have done one in the past already on those, but that's a topic that's probably beyond today's scope. Just going through some of these coins today, we have Ethereum, and Ethereum has got a really nice, what I think is a ascending triangle pattern here. And again, the same kind of thing happens as the delta P that we have on the left-hand side. The open end of the triangle gets appended to the top, and that's the measured move for this. So we did have a bunch of questions coming in about people saying, hey, could you look at like Litecoin? What are you seeing on Litecoin? Okay, Litecoin this is kind of a nasty pattern, but this is what we've seen from a lot of coins, is this sort of basing pattern that's out there. And the same thing goes, it's the depth of the pattern is the upside measured move. Unfortunately, it's not all that great. It's still kind of in a weekly downtrend, but if it's able to break above 200, then it may have a shot of getting out to this measured move pattern, which looks to be about 100 points. So that's going to be a target of about 300 on Litecoin versus the US dollar. I had a request to go into QANX, and all I can do on QANX is do this wrap token Ether, and this one's not looking all that great. And part of the problem is because if you are looking at something versus Ethereum or versus Bitcoin as your reference currency, those are rocketing. So your denominator is getting crushed right now. So anything that's in the alts that's trading against BTC or Ethereum is having a tough time keeping up. So anything that I do today, if I can, I'm going to do versus just a standard reference currency like the US dollar. So RLY was one that came up as a question. So we'll look at Coinbase on this one. Again, not a great pattern. There are better ones that are out there versus RLY. Not particularly strong trend. Is there something else that we can look at? All right. So ADA, this is Cardano. What's going on with Cardano versus US dollar? Again, not a great pattern. You know, here's a day where we're busting out to all-time new highs, and here's Cardano lagging. Cardano was doing great just a couple of months ago. And right now, again, I don't know if there's some kind of religion against Cardano or something like that. We tend to get into that with the platform wars. But I would wait until this thing breaks definitively above the 50-day moving average here at about 2.4. That would clear this base and perhaps put this on track for another weekly trend. Hex is one that we've been tracking for some time. This has been very strong, and then all of a sudden it did get weak. Now, one of the things that's in this pattern, I've seen this movie before. This is where we have a consolidation. So Hex was one of the strongest coins that we had for the longest time, right? So let me get this this fib retracement off here. I've seen this movie before where we have this big triangle and everybody in the planet is looking for this thing to break out to the upside. And instead it goes in the exact opposite direction. What's good about that is that if you go out to a larger time frame, what you'll find is that this is just a pullback on a larger time frame like the weekly chart. And it's very normal because at some point this thing had gotten way too ahead of itself. You can see the weekly chart now is just starting to build up energy. So what I would say is that this one might be a good rebound candidate right around, say, like 35 cents or something like that on Hex. Now, I know that's probably not how you're buying it, but this is a good reference for the chart. Another one that came up today was Chainlink, our old friend Chainlink. What's going on with the Chainlink Marines? All right, this is once again kind of an ugly looking chart here. Let's I'm going to go with a different chart here, which is on Coinbase, and just go to price only. You know, I mean, the trend is there, but it's stuck right now. It's stuck right now. So if you want to get into this, or if you've already holding this, as long as it's holding the trend, that's good. But if it starts to do this kind of thing, if it starts to put in a lower high and then confirms it with a lower low, I'd be gone at 14. I'd be gone at 14. You can add to it at 28 on a break above 28, but be gone and be gone long by 14. Okay, let's go back to the live here. How's everybody doing? Okay, so as usual, I get a bunch of requests that come in after I start this. So let's see if there's any questions here. Okay, so we talked about Litecoin already. Let's go back and do a couple more here, and then we'll wrap up today's session. Okay, so we already did Cardano versus the US dollar. Let's do Polkadot. Okay, so Polkadot versus US dollar. That's a weekly chart. Weekly chart looks really good. This is a really nice looking pattern. I like this a lot. So this is what I want you guys to watch for. Watch for breakouts that go into what are called high and tight consolidations. Now, what does that do? If we go out to the RSI Laguerre, we can see that this type of pattern builds up energy really quickly. It's almost like a coiled spring winding up like this, winding up tighter and tighter and tighter until boom, it goes flying out of there again. So it's a way for the chart to build up potential energy. So look for these whole high and tight patterns. This is a much bigger pattern for consolidation, which happens. So you can see smaller time frame consolidations, bigger time frame consolidations as well too. But this is a nice looking chart. This is a good asset, and I like everything about this so far, right? This is also building up one of these big old cut bases. Again, same thing that we're watching through BTC. Okay, let's see. I think, Rob, I already did Ethereum. Let's see, one dot, and let's see. I don't know that I've looked at one dot. Let's look at O&E. So is that Harmony? Yeah, if that's Harmony, then yeah, we looked at this one last week. This has got this really nice looking, cup with, there's your handle right there, just consolidating. I'd like to see this thing get going, and I'd like to see a little bit more volume on this as well too. Let's see. what is the energy chart that I use at the bottom in the trading view? This is called the RSI Laguerre, and it's available as a public study. So if you look at this chop underscore LRSI, there's various versions out there with a lot of different, but this is a way to use an RSI in Laguerre time, which is a lot faster for signaling than the normal RSI. And it's also got the energy component on it as well too, which I go into with a fractal energy trading course that we do sell. Okay. So again, I just went over Harmony. Let's see, SCRT. So secret network. Wow. We're seeing this pattern everywhere, aren't we, guys? Like this big cup pattern, this big basing pattern with a nice handle here. So this one's set up to go. You can see how this is a false breakout. And that's a little bit of a warning sign on secret network here. I don't like to see false breakouts. Normally a false breakout happens when you have no energy to power it. So it's almost like somebody runs up the side of a hill as fast as they can near the summit, and then they just completely pass out from lack of oxygen, right? So they have to go back down until they kind of restore. So this one might be good, but the next time it breaks out, I want to see a lot more volume there. So watch out for the false breakouts. Okay, last one I'll do here is H bar, and then we'll go back. H bar. If you want to get your coin in, get them in early, guys. Get them in early. We can't do this all night. Okay, so here we go. Otherwise, I'll have to bring in Winston. Okay, so here's another basing pattern here with a kind of a false breakout. Same deal here, false breakout. Tried to break out a couple of weeks ago. We're actually back in September. Unable to do so. Has to back and fill here. It's ready to go. If there's a breakout that's going to happen above 45 cents, it's going to have to happen with volume. Needs to get going. The rest of the market's leaving the station here. What's going on with Hedera? Okay, so you have to ask yourself, is that the right asset to be in right now? Okay, everybody, we're going to go back to, there we go. Hey, nobody ever asked me what I do with my hair. It's time to bring out Winston. All right, so you guys behave yourself out there. I'm going to bring out Churchill on you guys.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, as a lot of good questions today. And I think one thing we also should mention is with regard to the Bitcoin futures ETF, it's obviously not the real ETF that is, based off the spot currency. It is, it's not backed by anything or anything like that. It's not the one we've been waiting for, but it's a step towards that. I think that this was an important step and one that we hope clears the way for better consideration of, the true Bitcoin ETF. Another thing that's interesting about the Bitcoin futures ETF being approved this week is that, and the Grayscale CEO is just talking about this, is that it paves the way for consideration of a Ethereum ETF at some point. And yeah, I think I think we'll continue to see this become more and more relevant. And honestly, once we see the Bitcoin ETF, the real one, approved, at that point, I think Bitcoin is sort of set in a lot of ways, and people are going to be looking towards, what is the next Bitcoin? Obviously, Ethereum sort of fits that mold, but then people are going to be asking, what's the next Ethereum? So this is the sort of thing where this space constantly is has opportunities for us to get in on things early. Even if we weren't here in 2010, we are still able to find projects that are going to represent the next big thing, that are going to define the next decade, and to be able to get into them early and hopefully see that they pave the way for new innovations down the road. So anyways, this is like it's a big moment. It's a big moment in terms of all-time high and ETF approval. It's just a very momentous week, I suppose. So definitely just want to say a little little flag in the ground. Hey, this is very important, and I think it's it's cool to see that crypto's starting to get invited to the table. You know, it's not quite there yet, but we're definitely making an impression. So yeah, just celebrate it, guys. I think that's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, don't get complacent though. You know, everybody got so complacent back at the end of 2017 when we were making new highs every day, right? And it started to hit the national news. And you're going to see, because of the fact that we hit all-time new highs, you're going to see a lot more, you know, new people coming into this and saying, what should I buy? You know, kind of thing. And they're going to be opening up their brand new accounts, and we're just going to go through the same series of noobs that, you know, is part of any financial market. And a financial market requires new capital to come in order to grow, but don't get complacent for this. Learn your lessons from last time. Remember all those hard lessons that you learned from 2018, 2019, and you said you would never do again, right? So understand, remember, rule number one of risk management is understand your exits before you enter. And if you haven't figured it out yet, now's a great time to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And another way, just to talk to the title of our stream today, you know, how to hedge against Bitcoin. It's a lot easier to do so nowadays, because you have you know, platforms and services out there that will pay you interest to hold your stable coins. So if you think Bitcoin has reached a new all-time high and you're healthily, you know, you have a healthy profit from that, it might be a good idea to either divest into some altcoins, some of the projects that we talked about earlier, or maybe go into stablecoins and wait for it to pull back and then acquire it at a lower price and you know, rinse and repeat. There are many different ways to, you know, use some you know, good strategies and not just FOMO in or just blindly hodl your way to you know, stacking sats. I think there's a lot smarter ways you can go about it, and that's kind of one of the things we try to impress upon people who visit our channel here and are part of our community, is that, hey, you know, just because some people are louder does not mean that they're right. In fact, they're probably wrong, especially in this space. So we want to encourage you to always, even in times like these that are, you know, celebratory in time, hey, think about what's going to happen next. We could, you know, be right back down to 50 next week. You know, it could happen. I don't want to see that happen, but, you know, it's a possibility. So let's just, you know, keep ourselves rational and trade dispassionately, because ultimately the goal here is to, you know, find financial freedom through this and, you know, be able to disconnect from whatever system that you probably have disagreements with. So, you know, be smart about it. Don't be tribalistic, you know, just take it one day at a time. And yeah, especially weeks like these, just try to not get swept up into the the big celebration, but note it, you know, hey, say hi to it. But anyways, but yeah, as always, thanks so much for hanging out with us. You know, thanks so much for being a part of this. If you've been around the crypto space for a couple of years now, hopefully this roller coaster isn't that, you know, surprising or exciting, but, you know, welcome at this point. But for those that are new to the space, yeah, this is how it goes. It's volatile, but that's a feature, not the bug. So we like to embrace it and see what we can do to be smart about it. But if you'd like to talk to us more about like what's going on and where things are going next, we have some communities down in the bio below that you can join for free. But until then, we will be back next Wednesday at the same time. And Doc, do you have any parting wisdom or, you know, Churchill wisdom, I suppose?
Yeah, keep buggering on, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you know, keep, you know, follow your plan, you know. That's all you got to do. I mean, now's the time to come up with a plan if you don't have one. So make sure you're doing this in a very structured way, and don't let the crowds sway your approach towards that, because that is the road to ruin. So you guys have a great weekend.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, enjoy it. New all-time high. Let's see if we can get to 70. I would love to see that. But anyways, cheers, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you, everybody.